Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is one that I've had a lot of people ask me for ever since I did the very first video a few years ago. So today's video is simply going to be on how do I breed my own African soft furs? All right, so let's get to it. Today's video, I'm going to show you how to breed African soft fur rats, how I do it, the various caging that I use, and the bedding and the food, and how to pick and set up your colonies and such. Pretty much everything that you're going to be able to want to know if you don't already, and you're interested in breeding these little creatures. So let's go ahead and get to it. All right, back by popular demand is a video that a lot of people were asking for. I did one a few years ago, and a lot of people have asked me to do another one. So here it is. Today's video is about breeding ASFs, African soft fur rats. Now, there are lots of different setups that you can have. You could have a professional rodent rack that you could get from Vision or ARS or Freedom Breeder, or you could make one out of wood, and then you can use those cement mixing tubs. I find, for me, just because I don't breed a whole lot of these, that these tubs from Reptile Basics, and I'll put a link in the description below, these work out really well. I bought these, it's like 2 for $100. And you can also buy the water bowl. You can do a gravity-fed water system if you'd like. Otherwise, you can just do the water bowl, which is water bottle rather, which is $9.99 on the website. If you do the gravity-fed system, then you can have a 5-gallon bucket up top, and basically not have to be, constantly checking the water. So I find, for me, just because I don't have that many of them, I'm just going to go for the simplicity factor, and I use the bottle. So what I do is my colonies, and I started all of my entire ASF production started around October of 2022, and I started with 5 females and 1 male. And I started this when I was living in Minnesota. And I went up to the Snake Discovery where Emily and Ed have their shop. And I started with 5 females and 1 male. And here it is X amount of years later. And I don't know, how many hundreds or even thousands of rodents that I've produced. I basically started with 1 colony. And as the babies were born, I would save them off and let them grow up together. And what I find works best for me is 4 females and 1 male. Although in this particular colony, I believe I have 2 males and 5 females. But on average, I find that 4 to 1 seems to work really well. They're all related, and I haven't had any problems as far as like inbreeding goes, for years. Like I said, I started with 1 colony, and the same 5 females when I started with 1 male. I basically just would save off, 5 or 6 babies, and once they get old enough, I could tell what sex they were. I'd be like, okay, you're going to be colony number 2. You're going to be colony number 3, and it's all, brothers and sisters. And I haven't seen any strange, behaviors. I haven't seen any warts or anything weird. I mean, in the wild, ASFs, they don't like interlopers. They don't like a lot of outside rats, coming in to join their colonies. So what I have found over the years is it's very easy to mix and match. You can take babies and kind of like weanlings, or even freshly weaned babies with their eyes open. You can throw those into various colonies, and they're accepted. What I've noticed is when, and I tried this once, and obviously it didn't work out, so I haven't done it since, but you don't ever want to put an adult female in an established breeding colony, or a male for that matter, because usually that'll result in them getting beat up and often killed. So what I've done in the past is I actually had a male that passed away unexpectedly, and that left me without a breeder male for a colony. So what I did is I found one of the grow outs that was basically close to being sexually mature, but still kind of a baby, if you will. And I threw it in there with the 4 girls. And because it was a baby still, and it wasn't in a, you know, an established sexually, prolific or, breeder-ready male, everything was fine. And it kind of grew up. And within a month, I believe it, if I remember right, it was finally old enough to breed, and it just started breeding the 4 girls, and everything was great. So if you run into a situation where you have to replace one of your breeders, it's best just to start with a baby and let it grow up, and they'll tolerate it quite well. But the babies are very interchangeable. I've had some tubs where I have just a crazy amount of babies, so I'll take a handful of them and I'll put them into another colony with females that are, currently have babies, and they just take care of them. So it's been a real easy thing to do. So this particular tub, as I mentioned, comes from Reptile Basics. You can buy 2 for $100. You buy the bottles here for like $10. And what I do is I use Tractor Supply. I use these pellets, and I line the bottom of the tub with these, just a thin layer. And what these pellets are for is people will use these to line horse stalls, to soak up the urine and the moisture, and they'll also use them for wood-burning stoves. But I will line the bottom of the tub with that. And then from there, I will use pine bedding. This is kiln dried. Sometimes it's hard to find aspen, but the pine is completely fine for rats, especially if it's kiln dried, so it doesn't have a lot of dust. And then I'll, basically top the tub off with the kiln dried pine, which is what you see here. So what I will do is I will put the entire tub into a big tote like this, take all the, kind of take them all out. Then I'll clean the tub off. Once again, if you tend to do your cleaning every 7 days, it's very easy. You literally just take the animals out, take the top off, and you can literally just dump the entire mess into a trash can. But the idea is, if you don't go over 10 days, I have found that everything inside just drops right out nice and neat, and you don't even have to clean the tub. It's like spotless when you dump it out. A few times a year, I do spray some chlorhexidine, some veterinary, quality cleaner in there. But primarily, if I keep up on top of it, it's pretty easy and not a lot of work. So this is a freshly cleaned tub. I basically label my colonies 1 to whatever. And then eventually, after about a year, that's usually when the females kind of stop producing. So I thank them for their service, and they kind of go back into the food chain. And then by then, I've already kind of got another colony established. And sometimes I'll call it 1A, 1B, 1C. Now I just go back to colony 1. I just keep the numbers. But I do put a date. So 9/2/24 is when colony 3 started. That way I kind of know, okay, that's when these guys became a colony. And from my experience, it takes, I don't know, maybe 3 months for them to become sexually mature from the time they're born. So certain times of the year, I'll hold more back and I'll produce more colonies, more babies. And then certain times of the year, I might, kind of cut back to smaller colonies. But they produce a lot of babies, and it's very easy, before you know it, to have lots and lots of colonies and lots of animals, babies for grow out. So I find they're really good parents, and because I am allergic to rats and mice, I'm not really allergic to these. It's a lot easier on my system. So as long as I kind of keep it clean, I don't have to wear a mask. I don't have like asthmatic symptoms like I do with rodents, with regular rodents like rats and mice. And I primarily breed these for either the baby boas or also baby ball pythons. So that being said, after the thin layer of pine pellets is laid into the bottom and then the bedding is put up on top, I put the parents back in, I put the babies back in. That one is almost weaned, not quite yet. So maybe another week or two, and then that one's going to end up going into another tub that I call school. And that's a lower tub. It's a little smaller, not quite so tall. And that's where the freshly weaned babies go. And the idea is to teach them how to drink from a water bottle and, eat from the hopper, as opposed to just tossing them into one of these big tubs where maybe they're not so used to getting, knowing how to drink and how to eat. A lot of times I'll throw some food on the ground anyway, just to kind of get them going. But it's worked out quite well for me. What do I feed them, right? Well, there's all kinds, depending on where you live. You can find Tech-Lad food. You can order it online. You can find Missouri. Locally here, there is a Ace Hardware that sells an 18% rodent block food, a 50-pound bag for like $20, which is awesome. And 18% seems to be the magic number for protein. So I basically just kind of fill up the hopper. Sometimes I will actually throw some of this inside the cage. So the babies, as they're getting weaned, they kind of understand, oh, okay, that's food and it's easier for them to eat. The other thing that I do is I usually always keep a big pack of black oil sunflower seeds on hand. Very good protein, they really like it. So after I clean one of the tubs, I put some rodent block in, and I also throw some of the black oil sunflower seeds in there too. And this tub is pretty much ready, serviced, and goes back in my little rodent room that I have. And basically I'll be back in 7 days to clean it again. And in this case, I took, there was some already weaned babies from previous litters. And what I do is I take those out, and they've already been moved into the school grow-out tub. So that's what you kind of do. It's just kind of like you get used to a process. It's like, okay, there's a few little litters that are probably a few days old, starting to get hair and all that. So you can tell the pregnant ones too. That one right there with the 2 dots kind of down her back, she's ready to blow open. She's ready to bust, so she's going to have a litter soon. So they produce babies every 23 days. So I find that 4 girls and 1 male seems to keep the male happy that he's always got, something to do. And, 4 girls seems to be a good rotation. And, because they are used for food, I mean, it's nature's way. It is what it is. But they do live a good life. I throw in some leftover vegetables and things like that. So they do get some scraps, which they like. And, unfortunately, they're here to feed the snakes, but I try to give them a good life while they're here. So I think I've been doing that. All right, so these are babies that are fully weaned and almost sexually mature, believe it or not. Probably close to 3 months old. And this size is where I will use these as grow-outs and obviously feeders. What I will do is, as they get to this age, I'll sex them and I'll put males in one grow-out tub and females in another. I tend to feed the males off more than the girls. Girls are obviously, you can start colonies with them, 4 or 5 to a colony. So in this case, these are 1 ones that kind of grew up together. These were ones that were raised by the colony that I just showed you. So what I'm going to do now is it's time to start another colony. So I'm going to hopefully get 4 females and 1 male out of these grow outs, and then I'm going to put them in a new setup, give it a name and a date. Today's date, which is what is it, February the 22nd, I think, 21st, 22nd, somewhere around then. And yeah, I should start seeing some babies from them pretty soon. All right, so I'm calling this colony 2 because the last colony 2 got to the point where they got so old it was time to put them back into the food chain. Thank you for your service. So these are from that tub I just showed you. I've got 4 girls and 1 male, and they are all litter mates, and it's no problem. Now at this size you could mix and match. I could take babies that are this old from other colonies and put them together, and no problem. They haven't really bonded as a colony yet, and they haven't started producing, so very, very easy. Once again, what you can't do is you cannot take an established breeder, male or female, and cross them over to another colony. That is a recipe for disaster, so don't do it. So anyway, here's my new colony. So it's time to go ahead and put the food in, give them, give them their water, give them their black oiled sunflower seeds. I'm going to put today's date, which is, I think it's the 21st or 22nd of February, 2025. And I should start seeing some babies pretty soon from this colony right here. All right, so this one's ready to go. They're well on their way, and they should start breeding. Now you ask, how do you sex these things, right? I'll show you that in the next section here, how to find a female from a male. You can clearly see there's my 22225. So now I know this colony when it was started. So as time goes on, if I see the litters start to get smaller and smaller, it's thank you for your service, back into the food chain it goes. So just the way it is. All right, so you've got a whole tub full of babies, and you want to know which ones are males and which ones are females.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
This right here is an obvious male. You can see his little balls start to poke out. The interesting thing about these is they can hide their balls. So the best way to tell is the males will have a substantial space or gap in between their butt and their little penis there, whereas the girls do not. Let's find a girl. Come on, over here. Come on. That's a boy. Come on, where's the girls? So right there is a girl. You see her little private part, and you can see there's really no gap between that and her butt. It's that easy. I don't like picking them up by the tail. I know that can hurt their spine. A lot of times I literally just scoop them up. But for that, I wanted to show you. As they start to get older, it's very easy to tell. That's a female. And the male, usually his big nuts. There's the male. So there's the male and the female. So it's that easy to sex these little guys. All right, so in this tub here, these are boys. So this is going to be a grow out school tub. Lower. And then I have a smaller water bottle that'll go in there. And once they kind of start to outgrow this tub, I'll put them in a bigger tub. But I find that this way, when they go in here, they tend to do better. I wish I had a freshly weaned one, because to show you, these are older, so these are going to do quite fine. But the freshly weaned ones are a lot smaller than this. And those are the ones that traditionally go into the school tub. I just, with the weather and such. these have gotten a little bit bigger, and they're moving a little bit late. All right, everyone, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you learned something today. Hopefully today's video helps you out as far as how to go about acquiring some ASFs, and how to go about setting up their enclosures and how to successfully breed them. I think probably one of the biggest challenges is going to be finding somebody locally who is willing to sell you females. A lot of people only sell the males, the live ones, obviously, because they don't want you to breed your own, because then they're not going to have you as a customer anymore. So if you're in the Central Florida area and you're having a hard time, go ahead and reach out to me. I'd be happy to hook you up with some girls. So one thing I know I didn't cover in today's video is temperature. These rats, I mean, they are from Africa, but obviously they are domesticated as far as being bred here in the United States. So as far as temperature, what I notice is they don't like it too cold, and they don't like it too hot. So you might ask, Kev, what do you mean? Give me an example. So, in the winter time here in Florida, when it gets, I'd say maybe below 50, I will go ahead and I'll put like an oil heater in the building where they are. That way I try to keep them around 80 degrees, maybe 75 to 80. That's a perfect temperature for them. When it gets really hot and it gets above 90, I notice the production goes down. As long as you kind of keep a fan going and it doesn't get like well over 90, they're going to be okay. But just kind of keep in mind that 75 to low 80 degree temperature range is kind of what you want for them. So depending on where it is you live, that may or may not be, it might be easier in one place or harder in another. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching. It's definitely a good return on investment. The links are in the description below on how you can kind of get yourself started. So I really appreciate you watching. Enjoy your Sunday. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and ring that notification bell. We'll see you next time.